I am 107 years old and I can still recite the periodic table from memory. I can tell you what book I was reading 3 Thursdays ago. The remains of the day, sitting in my armchair by the window. I can tell you Newton's laws of motion, the date the Treaty of Versailles was signed, and the face of every colleague who left my research lab in 38 years of chemistry work. There were only 4. I remember each one. People ask me constantly, "Dr. Chen, what's your secret?" Like I've discovered some formula. There's no secret. It's discipline. It's what I told my graduate students for nearly 4 decades. You want discoveries? You do the work. Your mind is no exception. So settle in, listen carefully, and I'll share what I've learned. Let me start with why this drives me. My brother James, 3 years my senior, developed Alzheimer's in his late 70s. I watched him vanish over a dozen years. Toward the end, he couldn't place my face, couldn't recall his wife's voice. This man who could debate philosophy for hours, who knew every jazz standard ever recorded, who built radios from scratch as a boy, erased, simply erased. My colleague Patricia, identical story. My neighbor Vincent. So many people from my generation. They lost their minds while their bodies kept going. And I observed and I decided, that won't be my fate. I'll do everything in my power to keep this mind functioning until my last breath. So far, I'm winning. Now, I'm no physician. I studied chemistry, not neurology. But I've studied the literature. I've lived 107 years and witnessed what happens to those who chose one path versus another. So here's my understanding. Most critically, exercise your mind daily. Not with simple tasks, with demanding ones. Things that require genuine thought. I work through scientific puzzles each morning. Not the elementary ones, complex problems. Graduate-level chemistry calculations when I can find them. I read extensively, proper books, not endless social media feeds. I read perspectives that challenge mine because it forces me to examine why I hold my position. Your mind operates like any muscle. Neglect it, and it atrophies. Use it only for passive activities, streaming shows, scrolling through images. It becomes sluggish. You must push it, acquire new knowledge, work through equations, study strategy games, master a musical instrument. The specific activity doesn't matter, only that it demands real effort. My brother James, may he rest peacefully, stopped working at 58 and never touched a challenging book again. Television became his constant companion. He abandoned all difficult pursuits. 12 years later, he couldn't remember his own address. Random chance? I don't believe so. Second principle, maintain human connection. Yes, I understand. People can be exhausting. Trust me, after 38 years managing research teams, I know precisely how exhausting people can be. But you require them regardless. The science is unambiguous here. Isolation damages the brain, severely. When you're alone excessively, your brain operates on autopilot. No discussions to track, no emotional nuances to interpret, no debates to navigate. That's when deterioration begins. I attend a book club every Tuesday with 5 other people. I mentor young scientists through a university program. They contact me when they're stuck on research problems. I maintain relationships with my children. I debate economics with my granddaughter. She's mistaken about nearly everything, but at least our arguments keep me sharp. You needn't enjoy everyone's company. You simply must engage. Your brain requires the stimulation. Third element, physical activity. I don't mean competitive athletics. I'm 107. I'm not competing in anything, but I walk daily, through the park, around my building, to the market. Something about bodily movement benefits cognition, increases blood circulation to the brain. I don't claim to understand all the mechanisms, but I recognize the outcomes. The people I've known who remained sedentary, their cognitive decline accelerated compared to those who stayed active. That's simple. So stand up. Even 15 minutes matters. Walk, tend a garden, do yoga. Your brain benefits. Fourth consideration, address the fundamentals. Rest and nutrition. Not glamorous, I realize, but essential. I sleep 7.5 hours nightly. Consistent bedtime, consistent wake time, every single day. None of this erratic schedule business. Your brain performs maintenance during sleep. This is established neuroscience. The metabolic waste that accumulates throughout the day gets cleared at night, but only with adequate sleep. Regarding nutrition, consume whole foods, leafy greens, salmon, nuts, berries. Evidence supports these. I grew up in Shanghai eating completely different cuisine, but I adapted. Eliminate refined sugar. Eliminate ultra-processed products. Your brain's performance depends on its fuel. Provide poor fuel, expect poor results. Final point, perhaps most vital, maintain purpose. A reason to face each day. Something meaningful to you. When I left the laboratory, I didn't simply stop. I began consulting. I joined scientific advisory boards. I remained engaged because I needed to contribute. When you lack direction, lack meaningful activity, your brain receives the signal that it's obsolete, no longer required. So it begins the shutdown process. After my husband David passed, many assumed I'd simply fade. That's what happens to widows, they suggested. You just wait for the end. Ridiculous. I had responsibilities. I still have responsibilities. Research to review, problems to solve, young scientists to guide. Discover your purpose. It needn't be monumental. It must simply matter to you. Listen, I'm 107 years old. I've defied probability in every meaningful way. And I'm telling you, this isn't fortune. I witnessed those who thrived and those who declined. The difference wasn't arbitrary. It was decisions. Daily decisions across decades. Small choices that accumulated. Challenge your mind. Maintain relationships. Move your body. Sleep and eat properly. Live for something. It's not complex. My students always wanted some hack, some easier way. None exist. There's only the work. Every single day, whether you're motivated or not. That applied to organic chemistry, and it applies to preserving your mind. I have perhaps a few years remaining. Perhaps less. But whatever time I have, I'll be present for all of it. Sharp and uncompromising until the final moment. Now, if you'll forgive me, I have a journal article to review. The methodology in Section 3 needs work. Go pursue your own challenges. This man who could debate philosophy for hours, who knew every jazz standard ever recorded, who built radios from scratch as a boy. Erased. Simply erased. My colleague Patricia, identical story. My neighbor Vincent. So many people from my generation. They lost their minds while their bodies kept going. And I observed and I decided, that won't be my fate. I'll do everything in my power to keep this mind functioning until my last breath. So far, I'm winning. Now, I'm no physician. I studied chemistry, not neurology. But I've studied the literature. I've lived 107 years and witnessed what happens to those who chose one path versus another. So here's my understanding. Most critically, exercise your mind daily. Not with simple tasks, with demanding ones. Things that require genuine thought. I work through scientific puzzles each morning. Not the elementary ones, complex problems. Graduate-level chemistry calculations when I can find them. I read extensively, proper,